The last thing my daughter said before she left was, "Your love isn't enough. I need opportunities." She was 18, full of ambition, ego, and just enough cruelty to leave a scar. She walked out of my house and strayed into her mother's world of luxury, her CEO stepfather waiting with open arms and a promise of the high life in Los Angeles. For 2 years, I didn't hear a word. Then one night, my phone rang. It was a rehab center. What happened next was rather unexpected. I will tell you everything. First, let me thank you for your continuous support. If you love stories like this one, support us by subscribing to this channel and comment where you are watching us from. It will be great to hear from you. Now let's jump into the details of what happened. The day Lily turned 18, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Your love isn't enough. I need opportunities." It didn't come out angry, just decisive, like she'd already packed the decision alongside her designer bags. I stood there, frozen in our cramped kitchen, still holding the spatula in my hand, pancakes burning behind me. I remember the smell of them, just slightly singed, sweet and bitter all at once. Fitting. I didn't say anything for a long moment. I just watched her reach for her phone, thumbs tapping away like she hadn't just cut me open with 9 words. She didn't look up. That was the part that stuck in my throat. She didn't even look up. After 18 years of scraped knees, late-night fevers, forgotten science projects, heartbreaks, and homemade Halloween costumes, she couldn't give me eye contact while she dismissed it all. "Your love isn't enough." I always knew I couldn't give her what her mother's world could. Carla had married up after the divorce, some tech CEO out in Los Angeles, with a Malibu house and a Tesla in the driveway. They lived on organic groceries and name-brand air. Lily had visited them a few times over the years, holidays, mostly, but she always came back to me with the same sleepy smile and worn-out sneakers. Until the visits started lasting longer. Until she started showing up with sleek luggage instead of her beat-up duffel. Until I caught her one night practicing how to pronounce Versace in the mirror. I tried to talk to her about it once, about how different life was here, how money didn't solve everything. She'd rolled her eyes. "You always say that, Dad. But that's because you don't have any." She laughed a little then, like it was just a joke, but it wasn't. I felt the shift. That conversation was 6 months before the kitchen moment. By the time we got there, she'd already made her choice. I watched her finish her text and tucked the phone into her back pocket. She wore those high-waisted jeans that made her look older, more like Carla. There was lipstick on her mouth, slightly smudged, and earrings I'd never seen before. I wanted to ask her where she got them, but I already knew. "So that's it?" I finally asked, my voice rough like sandpaper. "You're just leaving?" She sighed like she was the one being burdened. "Dad, don't make this harder than it is. I'm not leaving you. I'm just going to live somewhere I can actually get ahead." I barked a laugh, sharp and ugly. "Get ahead? Lily, you just graduated high school. Since when do you talk like you're running for office?" She crossed her arms and leaned against the counter like she was tired of explaining herself. "You don't get it. Mom and Mark, they know people. They can get me internships, brand deals, modeling auditions. LA is where things happen." She gestured vaguely toward the window, like the world beyond our little house was some vast ocean she was finally ready to sail. "And what am I?" I asked quietly. "Just the guy who packed your lunches and picked you up from soccer?" She didn't answer. And that silence, that hesitation, it said everything. She didn't mean to hurt me, but she wasn't going to stop either. And that's what really broke me. "Your room will still be here," I muttered, "in case you ever need to come back." She gave me a half smile, the kind people give strangers on buses. "Thanks, Dad." Then she walked down the hall, grabbed her suitcase, and was gone within the hour. No tears, no lingering hug, just the hollow slam of a car door and the sound of her Uber pulling away. I stood in that doorway long after she left. The pancakes were cold. The house was quiet. And I realized, for the first time in 18 years, I had absolutely no idea who my daughter really was. The days that followed were quiet in a way that hurt. I kept the TV off, let the dishes pile up. Her room stayed exactly as she left it. Bed unmade, perfume still hanging in the air, a crumpled hoodie on the floor like she might come back any second and need it. But she didn't. She never even called. I tell myself every morning that it was okay, that I wanted her to chase her dreams, even if they weren't mine. that every parent hopes their kid outgrows them eventually. But it wasn't true. I didn't hope for this. I didn't raise her just to be discarded the moment something shinier came along. I thought back to all the things I'd sacrificed. The nights I worked overtime and still showed up for her school plays with flowers from the gas station. The second-hand prom dress I tailored myself because she loved the color, even though I knew she only said that because it was all we could afford. Every single damn tooth fairy dollar I scraped together even when rent was late. And now here I was, sitting alone on the porch, wondering if I'd been raising her for someone else all along. One night, about a week after she left, I got a text. My heart jumped. But it wasn't Lily. It was Carla. She's settling in well. Got her a meeting with a casting agent next week. Just thought you'd want to know. No, how are you? No acknowledgement of what had just happened. Just a smug little update, like she was winning some custody contest I never agreed to play. I didn't reply. I didn't trust myself to. The hardest part was the guilt. I started questioning everything. Was I too strict? Too small town? Had I made her feel trapped, unambitious? Or maybe I hadn't loved her loud enough, bold enough. Maybe she was right. Maybe love wasn't enough. I'd sit in her room sometimes, trying to replay every major memory we had, looking for the moment the ground shifted beneath us. Her first birthday without her mom. Her middle school graduation when she clung to me so tight. The day I let her borrow the car and she brought it back with a dent, crying and apologizing like she'd killed someone. All of it felt so close and so far. And yet, even in the quiet, something in me resisted giving up. Some stubborn root of belief that said, no, I had been enough. Maybe not flashy, maybe not rich, but I'd given her everything I had, and then some. I didn't know it then, but it would take 2 full years and one devastating phone call before Lily would realize what I'd known all along. Love doesn't need to come with a spotlight. It just needs to show up. The first few weeks after Lily left felt like walking around with a limp I couldn't explain to anyone. People at work would ask how she was doing in Los Angeles, and I'd fake a smile and say, she's great. Big dreams, you know. I never told them that she hadn't called once. That the only updates I got were filtered through the warped lens of Instagram and occasional text messages from Carla, who seemed to enjoy curating Lily's life like some kind of personal brand manager. At first, I kept checking her profile every night before bed. She posted glossy snapshots of sushi platters, rooftop lounges, and sunsets that looked like they'd been sponsored by an influencer agency. She started calling herself Lily Ray online, like our last name. My last name was something to be washed off. I'd zoom in on each picture, trying to see if she still wore the little birthstone necklace I gave her when she turned 16. But it was gone, replaced by something gold and expensive looking, with a tiny M charm at the end. Mark, I assumed. Her stepfather. The worst part wasn't what she posted. It was what she didn't. She never mentioned home. Never tagged me. Never even hinted that she came from anywhere other than Rodeo Drive. One photo in particular wrecked me. It was a group shot. Lily in the center, all legs and hair and camera-ready angles, surrounded by tanned, laughing people who looked straight out of a Netflix teen drama. The caption read, "Real family isn't always blood. It's who shows up." I must have stared at that sentence for an hour. I wanted to call her. To scream. To remind her who cleaned vomit off her bedsheets when she had the stomach flu in 5th grade. Who stayed up 3 nights in a row helping her write that god-awful history paper on the Civil War. Who pawned their guitar to pay for her cheer uniform. Who showed up. But I didn't call. I just put the phone down and went out to the garage, where I kept the old punching bag. I hadn't used it in years. That night, I nearly knocked it off the hook. By the time the holidays rolled around, I knew she wasn't coming back. Carla sent a cheery email with photos from Aspen. Lily grinning in a fur-lined parka, standing between Mark and some actor whose face I vaguely recognized from commercials. I didn't respond. Instead, I printed the photo, folded it in half, and stuffed it in the drawer where I kept old birthday cards and broken remotes. Out of sight, if not out of mind. I still sent Lily a Christmas card. Just like always. No return address. Just a simple message inside. I hope you're warm. Love, Dad. I never got one back. Months passed like that. I buried myself in routine. I started going on long walks after dinner, sometimes ending up at the high school stadium, watching whatever sport was in season like it mattered. Other times, I'd sit at the diner alone, sipping black coffee and pretending I had somewhere to be. I kept waiting for time to harden the wound, but it didn't. It just spread the ache out, made it softer and more permanent, like a bruise under the skin that never quite healed. Every now and then, someone would ask how Lily was doing. I started saying, "She's chasing her dreams," and leaving it at that. Then one afternoon, out of the blue, I got a voicemail from Carla. "Hey, just wanted to let you know Lily got invited to a red carpet event next week. Mark pulled some strings. It's kind of a big deal. Thought you'd want to know. You can probably find photos online after." I listened to it twice. Not because I cared about the event, but because Carla's voice had that smug, rehearsed quality again. Like this was all part of a master plan she'd been building since the day she left me for her upgrade husband. Still, I searched for the photos. Sure enough, there she was, Lily, now 19, draped in a dress that probably cost more than my car, flashing a camera-ready smile that didn't reach her eyes. I barely recognized her. There was something hollow about the way she posed, like a cardboard cutout of the daughter I used to know. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark with a bottle of beer and pulled out the last real photo we took together. It was from her high school graduation. She had her arms slung around my shoulders, grinning like a kid who still believed in magic. I looked exhausted in the photo, bags under my eyes from working late the night before. But we were happy. That was real. And now she was out there pretending none of it ever happened. So I did something I hadn't planned to do. I blocked her profile. Not out of spite, out of survival. Because every time I saw her face without hearing her voice, it felt like 1,000 tiny cuts I couldn't explain to anyone. Because I needed to stop bleeding for someone who no longer saw me as family. About 6 months after that, something shifted. I stopped waiting. I stopped wondering. I stopped checking the mailbox for apology cards or surprise visits. The ache was still there, but I let it become part of the background hum of my life. Like tinnitus, barely noticeable most days, but still there if I stood still long enough. I started fixing up the house. Not for anyone else, for me. Repainted the living room. Turned Lily's old room into a space for woodworking and reading. I even signed up for a Saturday morning group at the community center, just a bunch of middle-aged guys who liked fixing old furniture. We didn't talk much, but it helped. Life didn't get better, but it got quieter, manageable. I thought that was the end of the story. Until one rainy Thursday in early spring, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. "Hello." There was a pause, then a soft, trembling voice. "Hi, is this Mr. Raymond?" "Yes," I said, heart thudding. "Who's this?" "This is Jessica from Sunset Ridge Recovery. We have a patient here, Lily Ray, who listed you as her emergency contact. She's stable, but, well, she asked us to call you." My knees nearly gave out. I sat down hard on the kitchen chair, my breath caught somewhere between fear and disbelief. "She's here?" I asked. "In rehab?" "Yes, sir. She checked in 2 nights ago. Voluntarily. There was an incident, some press coverage, a substance issue, and her primary guardian declined further involvement." Declined. Just like that. Her mother had washed her hands of her. Mark too, I assumed. It took everything in me not to shout. "Is she okay?" I asked quietly. "She's fragile," the nurse said. "But she's been asking for you." She said, her voice lowered slightly. "She said to tell you. Dad, will you forgive me?" I closed my eyes. The words hit harder than I expected. Not because they were what I'd waited to hear, but because I didn't know if I could say yes. I didn't go right away. That might sound cruel, especially after everything. But the truth is, I wasn't ready. I hung up the phone and just sat there at the kitchen table, staring at the worn spot in the wood where Lily used to do her homework. My hands were clenched so tightly around my coffee mug, I didn't realize I'd cracked the handle until it snapped off in my grip. It hit the floor and shattered. I didn't pick it up. She'd asked for forgiveness. "Dad, will you forgive me?" The words played on a loop in my head like some old voicemail I couldn't delete. But they didn't sound like Lily. Or maybe I didn't recognize her voice anymore. Maybe I'd buried the sound too deep to pull it back up. The next day, I took off work and drove for hours with no destination in mind. I ended up at a lakeside spot she used to love when she was younger, back when weekend picnics and skipping stones were enough to light up her whole face. I sat on the bench where we once ate peanut butter sandwiches and told her fairy tales I made up on the spot. Now all I could see were ghosts of those moments. Her tiny feet dangling off the edge, her giggle echoing through the trees. I called the rehab center that evening, confirmed she was still there, asked if she was stable. The nurse told me she'd been quiet, but calm. She'd asked twice if I'd come. That was it. No begging, no dramatics, just asking. So I got in my truck the next morning and drove to the facility. It was a 3-hour ride, and I didn't turn the radio on once. Just the road and the noise in my head. Sunset Ridge Recovery sat nestled on a hillside behind a locked gate and a row of manicured hedges. It looked more like a wellness spa than a rehab center, all glass windows and soft landscaping, like they wanted to soften the reality of what went on behind closed doors. A young woman at the front desk checked me in. Her smile was too cheerful for the place, like she'd been trained to defuse tension on sight. "She's been waiting for you," she said. "Room 12. Someone will walk you there." A counselor, a man maybe 10 years younger than me, led me down a quiet corridor. The walls were soft beige, the kind of color that pretends to calm you. I kept my eyes on the door numbers, my breath shallow. When we reached her room, the counselor turned to me and asked, "Do you want a minute before you go in?" I shook my head. "No, I've waited long enough." He knocked gently. "Lily, your dad's here." No answer. He cracked the door open. "You okay if I send him in?" Still nothing. Then, faintly, a quiet "yeah." I stepped inside, and everything in me braced for something dramatic. But she was just sitting on the edge of a twin bed, legs tucked under her, eyes red but dry. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, no makeup, no jewelry. She looked small. Not fragile, small. Like the version of her I hadn't seen in years. For a long moment, neither of us said a word. "Hey, kid," I said finally. Her face crumpled for a second, then pulled itself back together. "Hey, Dad." I stayed near the door. "You asked me to come." She nodded, staring at her hands. "I wasn't sure you would." Neither was I. A shaky laugh escaped her. "Yeah, I figured." Another long pause. Then she asked, "Did they tell you what happened?" "I read enough." She didn't look up. "It's mostly true." I nodded slowly, keeping my voice even. "The drugs? The videos?" Her lips tightened. "Yeah. Coke. Party got out of hand. Someone recorded it. Mark said it'd ruin his IPO if I didn't go away quietly. So here I am." "And your mom?" She shrugged. "Told me this was the adult consequence of adult decisions. Said she'd pay for treatment, but didn't want press involved. Told me to lay low and stop embarrassing everyone." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "So they dropped you." She laughed again, short, bitter. "Yeah. Rich people are all about support until the cameras roll." I moved a little closer, but didn't sit. "Why'd you call me?" She looked up then, really looked at me, for the first time in 2 years. Her eyes were glassy, rimmed with dark circles. But there was something real there. Something raw. "Because I didn't know who else to call," she said. "Because you're the only person who ever showed up without needing a press release." I swallowed hard. "You said you wanted forgiveness." "I do," she said quickly. "But not because I think I deserve it. Her voice cracked. I was so stupid, Dad. I thought money made me important. I thought being around people with power would make me feel safe. But none of them give a damn about me. And I pushed away the only person who ever did." I finally sat down across from her, knees cracking from the stiffness. "You didn't just push me away, Lily. You erased me. You made it clear I wasn't enough for you." Her face collapsed into her hands. "I know. I was awful. I don't know who I even was back then." I didn't answer right away. I needed her to feel the weight of that. I wasn't here to patch her up and carry her home like nothing happened. "I still love you," I said finally. "But love doesn't mean I forget. And it doesn't mean I pretend like none of this happened." She looked up, eyes pleading. "I'm not asking for home. I'm just asking if you still see me as your daughter." That got me. Because despite everything, the answer was yes. But I also knew this couldn't go back to how it was. There were conditions now. Boundaries. I couldn't afford to lose myself again in the name of saving her. "I see you," I said. "But I won't carry you anymore, Lily. I'll walk beside you. I'll support your recovery. But you've got to do the work. I'm not here to rescue you. I'm here because I still believe there's something worth saving." Tears streamed down her face. Silent. No sobs. Just tears. I want to get better, she whispered. Not just for me. For you. I nodded. Then let's start there. The next time I visited Lily, she looked better. Not good, just better. Her hair was brushed, she had a little color in her cheeks, and she was wearing one of those plain gray sweatshirts that places like Sunset Ridge give you when they're trying to strip away all your old selves and start over. She didn't hide behind sarcasm this time. She greeted me at the door with a small, real smile. Hey, she said. Hey, kid. I replied, the word kid catching in my throat a little. There was something about seeing her like that, clean, vulnerable, unarmored, that reminded me of her at 13. The version of her that used to fall asleep on the couch next to me watching dumb cooking shows, long before California ever came calling. We sat outside on a bench in the facility's little garden courtyard, surrounded by low lavender bushes and the distant hum of traffic from the freeway beyond. It was quiet in that way that makes you realize how much noise you carry around in your head. She told me more this time. About how it started, one party, then another. How the drugs weren't even the thing at first. It was the image, the performance. Always being on. Always chasing the next shiny moment. It's like I was constantly auditioning for a life I didn't even want, she said, rubbing her thumb along the hem of her sleeve. And I kept waiting for someone to tell me I was enough. But nobody ever did. I wanted to scream. Because I had told her. 1,000 times. In every packed lunch, every worn-out bedtime story, every time I showed up to a recital or a doctor's appointment or just knocked on her door to say goodnight. But none of it counted, I guess. Not in a world where affection had to be expensive to be real. I told you. I said, quieter than I meant to. She looked at me, eyes soft. I know you did. I just didn't believe it back then. And by the time I realized I wanted to come back, I didn't think I deserved to. We sat in silence after that. I let her words hang there, heavy and true. Sometimes the worst part about being right is that you never wanted to be. Over the next few weeks, I kept visiting, Sundays mostly. I'd bring books she used to like, some of her old photos, even a small Polaroid of the two of us from her 8th birthday party. I didn't know if it helped, but she always smiled when I handed her something. We didn't talk about the future until one afternoon when she brought it up herself. I've been thinking, she said, tracing lines on the picnic table with her finger. When I'm done here, I could come home. I could stay with you. Start fresh. I looked at her for a long moment, already knowing what I had to say, but hating the way her eyes lit up when she said it. Lily, I began carefully. I need to be honest with you. Her smile faltered. I'm proud of the work you're doing. I am. But I can't have you move back in with me. She blinked, confused. But why? I'm getting better. You said. I said I'd support you. I interrupted gently. And I will. I'll help you find a place. I'll be there at your meetings. I'll visit. I'll check in. But I can't go back to being the safety net you fall into every time things fall apart. That nearly broke me once already. Her face shifted. Hurt first. Then disbelief. Then something darker. So that's it. I finally reach out. I finally try to fix things, and you slam the door in my face. No, I said firmly. I'm opening a different door. One where you walk forward on your own. Tears welled up, but she shook her head. You always said this would be home. And it still can be. In your heart, in your memory. But not as a place you live in again. That's not healthy for either of us. She stood up then, pushing away from the table. You're punishing me. No, I said again. I'm protecting me. She stared at me, jaw clenched. You don't get it. I don't have anywhere else to go. My heart cracked. Then we'll find somewhere. Together. But I can't. Won't. Be the one who lets you bypass all the work you need to do just because I'm scared of losing you again. Silence. Then, finally, she sat back down, head in her hands, shoulders shaking. I hate this, she whispered. I hate that I broke everything. I reached across the table and touched her hand. Me too. But breaking isn't the end. It's just where we start rebuilding. Later that night, I sat in my truck in the parking lot for almost an hour before driving home. My fingers hovered over my phone, tempted to call someone, anyone, to talk through the ache. But there was no one to call. Not really. Not for this. Instead, I drove home, walked into the house, and passed by the door to her old room. I didn't open it. I'd already cleared it out, turned it into a study, a quiet space with a small desk, some of my woodworking tools, and the beginnings of a shelf I'd promised myself I'd build months ago. I sat in that room for a long time, not crying, not angry, just still. And I realized something I hadn't said to her yet, something I'd only just understood myself. Loving someone doesn't mean you surrender your peace. It doesn't mean you erase your boundaries. Sometimes, love is the hardest when it looks like a no. And I loved her enough to say no. The call from Carla came exactly 3 days after I told Lily she couldn't move back in. I knew it was coming. I even considered blocking her number. But something in me, some tired old habit of bracing for her disapproval, made me pick up anyway. You really told her no? Her voice was sharp, like she'd been rehearsing her outrage since breakfast. After everything she's been through, I didn't respond right away. I'd learned over the years that Carla hated silence more than any argument. It made her uncomfortable, forced her to fill in the blanks. She's your daughter, she continued. She's in rehab, for God's sake. She needs stability, not more rejection. I finally spoke. What she needs is a clear path forward, not a soft place to fall so she can repeat the same mistakes. Carla scoffed. Oh, please. You're acting like you're some therapist now. Don't turn this into a self-righteous lesson just because you're still bitter she left. The words landed like tiny slaps. Old wounds reopening under new sunlight. You weren't here, I said, my voice low. You didn't watch her erase her life here, erase me, like I was just some obstacle to her real dreams. She was a teenager. She didn't know what she was doing. Exactly, I snapped. And now she's 20, and she needs to start knowing. That's what this is about. There was a pause. Then, quieter, colder. You always did love being the martyr. That was it. I hung up. I thought that would be the end of it. But family drama, I've learned, never travels alone. It comes with an entourage, opinions, whispers, guilt trips disguised as concern. The next day, my cousin Beth texted me out of the blue. We hadn't spoken in a year. Hey, Carla mentioned what's going on with Lily. Just wanted to say, maybe this is the time to put pride aside. She's your only child. Then came a message from Ray, an old neighbor. Saw some stuff online. Is Lily okay? Hope you two can patch things up. Life's short, man. Even my boss pulled me aside at work. I heard your daughter's back in town, he said, sipping his coffee like it was casual conversation. That's good, right? Maybe it's time to move on. Kids mess up. I nodded, smiled faintly, said I was handling it. But inside, I was seething. Not because they were wrong, but because they were all missing the damn point. This wasn't about punishment. This wasn't about holding a grudge. This was about choosing not to be used. About not letting my door swing open so easily that it lost all meaning. And still, the doubt crept in. Was I being too hard? Too cold? Was I failing her at the exact moment she needed me most? It wasn't until I talked to Mike, a friend from the Saturday woodworking group, that I finally felt like someone got it. We were sanding down an old maple table, both of us knee-deep in sawdust and silence, when I mentioned the situation. I didn't go into detail, just said, my daughter's in rehab. Asked to move back in. I told her no. Mike didn't look up, just nodded slowly. Hard call, he said. I've got a brother like that. Clean now, but for years? Every time he screwed up, he'd run back to my mom's house like it had a revolving door. She called it love. I called it drowning. I looked at him. You think I did the right thing? He blew the dust off the table and shrugged. Depends on what you're trying to save. Her, or yourself. That hit me hard. Because for so long, I thought saving Lily meant losing myself. Giving up space, peace, boundaries, whatever it took. But now I understood, love isn't supposed to cost you your entire identity. And if it does, that's not love. That's survival with a bow on it. A week passed without another call from Carla. No text from Lily either. The quiet should have felt like peace, but instead it hovered over me like a question I didn't know how to answer. Then, on a Sunday afternoon, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name, in handwriting I hadn't seen in years. It was from Lily. Dad, I know I got angry when you said no. I wanted to believe I was ready, that I could just come back and fix everything. But you were right. If I had moved back in, I probably would have started leaning on you again instead of myself. I needed to be mad at you to avoid admitting I wasn't ready. I'm still scared, but I'm still clean, and I'm still trying. Thank you for showing up, even when it wasn't the way I wanted. Love, Lily. I read that letter 3 times, then folded it gently and slid it into my wallet. Not because it erased the past, not because it changed my mind, but because it was the first thing she'd written me in years that sounded like her. The version of her I'd raised. The version I never stopped believing was still in there, under all the noise. 3 months passed after Lily's letter. She stayed in treatment. No relapses. No drama. I kept my distance, but not coldly. I'd send postcards now and then, little things that meant something to us. A photo of her childhood dog I found in an old box. A comic strip we used to read together. A short note. Proud of you. Keep going. No lectures. No guilt. Just presence. Quiet, steady presence. And she responded, carefully. A text here. A card there. No big apologies. No emotional outpourings. Just proof of life. And in a strange way, it was more comforting than anything else could have been. It was honest. And honest was something we hadn't had in years. She didn't ask to come home again. Not once. Instead, she mentioned a shared housing program through the center, temporary, sober roommates, job help, therapy. She'd gotten a job answering phones at a yoga studio. It wasn't glamorous, but she called it a start. And when I sent back a thumbs up emoji, she replied, "Thanks, Dad, for not letting me skip the hard part." That one stayed with me. The house felt different now. Not sad, not empty, just mine. Her room stayed a study. I kept a photo of us on the desk, not for sentimentality, but as a reminder that I could love her without needing to lose myself in the process. I wrote more now. Short stories. Pieces of memory I didn't want to fade. Some about her. Some about me. I even submitted one to a local magazine. It didn't get published, but the editor wrote me back. "You have something to say? Keep writing." That meant more than I expected. Sometimes I'd find myself walking past the high school stadium, watching the new kids run drills, none of them knowing who I was. I liked that. I liked the anonymity, the normalcy. After all the storm, normal felt like a kind of freedom. One Sunday, Lily called. Not text, not voicemail. Called. "Hey, Dad," she said. Her voice sounded stronger. A little gravel in it, like she'd finally grown into it. "Hey, kid. I got a raise. And I found this tiny apartment. It's not much, but it has a window that faces the street. I think I'm gonna take it." "That's great," I said. "I'm proud of you." Silence. Then, "I still think about home a lot." "You're home. But I get it now." "I do. You'll build your own," I told her. Brick by brick. She was quiet again. "Do you think we'll ever?" "I don't know. Be close again." "I think we're already getting there," I said. "Just a different kind of close." A pause. "I like that," she said. "Different kind of close." Months later, she sent me a photo of her apartment. Tiny kitchen, secondhand couch, a potted plant struggling to survive on the windowsill. She looked tired but alive. In the background, I spotted something stuck to the fridge. It was the comic strip I'd mailed her, the one about the single dad and the stubborn kid who finally learns how to say thank you. No big speeches. No floodgates opening. Just that photo. It was enough. The truth is, I'll never forget the sting of hearing her say, "Your love isn't enough." Those words live in a part of me that still aches when the house is too quiet or I drive past her old school. But I've learned something since then, something I think all parents learn eventually, if they're honest. Love is enough, but rescue isn't. And there's a difference. Love stands beside. Rescue kneels down and lifts without asking. Love listens. Rescue silences. Love trusts the other person to walk their own path, even if it's hard, even if it's uncertain. Rescue builds a cage with good intentions and calls it safety. I won't build cages anymore. And Lily? She's learning to fly without one. If you've ever had to choose between loving someone and saving yourself, you know how painful that line can be. This story isn't just about a father and daughter. It's about knowing when to help and when to hold back, when to say, "I'm here," and when to say, "but not like this." If this resonated with you, share your story in the comments. Someone else might need to hear they're not alone.